What on earth happened in Spain this evening?
Disaster struck Manchester United a few times this season, but this was total capitulation of the highest order. I'd said earlier in the week that I didn't have a good feeling. I thought I had a better feeling only if Marcus Rashford was seen starting in the 11. But how this game started, how this match started, two of the main characters, almost villains in a Manchester United jersey in the last 2 or 3 seasons were at it again. I'm talking about David De Gea and Harry Maguire. David De Gea told Harry Maguire on the first goal, anything you can do, I can do way better, and just had an absolute holler of a lifetime. And I just want to point out something. I never apologize to one James Benge that often because, well, it's Benge. But Benge and I were going back and forth talking about, is David De Gea one of the elite goalkeepers in the Premier League or one of the elite goalkeepers throughout Europe? I put my neck out on the line for David De Gea. I will never do that again because I was wrong. He was crap in this match, and that was really the difference. Sevilla, credit to them, they were on the front foot, and that first goal was everything. If United went through the first couple minutes without getting that or conceding that first goal, then they gave themselves a chance, but they didn't do that. Clearly, they didn't want to make it to the next round. I'm pissed.
Yeah, I think for me, Mike, when I look back at that game, though, I felt that there was like a lack of energy from Manchester United. I didn't see no energy. I don't know whether it was the temperature that caused a problem to the players, but they just looked so slow, so off the pace for a game of that importance and magnitude for them that they needed to win. They're lacking tempo. I felt in the final third, they were lacking any real kind of connectivity, creativity, or finding that final pass or just making something happen. It was not a good performance, and I don't think there's much blame you can put in Erik Ten Hag's feet. But the one question I would say is, for me, in a game like that, I question why Fred didn't start. I think Fred, for me, has that energy, that high tempo. That's what's needed in that midfield area. He should have started for me over Sabitzer, for me, in my opinion. I just don't see why he started. He didn't contribute anything. And going back to the first goal, goals change games, as we all know. To concede such a cheap, poor goal to the likes of Sevilla this far into the competition, you've really shot yourself in the foot. Because like we said already, we discussed, I'm sure that Sevilla is probably first sellout of the season for this season at home against Manchester United. And for me, I will defend David De Gea in this one. Because if you're playing centre-back for Manchester United, for one of the top clubs in European football, you need to be able to handle this situation there. Harry Maguire made it so predictable that he was going to try and play the ball to Wan-Bissaka. When you're a centre-back at the highest level, you need to see and know everything that's around you. If he lets that ball run across his body, that is 3 severe players out of the picture. Yeah. That's what you talk about awareness. The top players in world football are very aware of what's going on there. He should know what's going on. He just makes it so predictable. Lackluster attempt, technically, to get the ball over into Wan-Bissaka's area. And for me, I will put the blame more so at Harry Maguire's feet than I would at David De Gea. Because again, we get to watch all these great teams in European football and world football. We've seen Real Madrid play out of tighter areas and situations where we think they're taking a risk. But that's how level and high caliber of players that they have. And that first goal really did change everything for Manchester United today.
Well, it's interesting hearing you talking as well about Sabitzer starting, because we know that he scored the 2 goals in the first leg, but he was also carrying an injury coming into this one. So it was quite baffling to see Ten Hag risk him, but not risk some of the others who were also doubts coming back in. You know, we saw Rashford, Shaw thrown on at the beginning of the second half, which, you know, suggested that Ten Hag was getting a bit desperate, because let's not forget as well, Sevilla were, a couple of inches away from having a 2-goal lead at halftime. Campos with a fine finish, right decision to rule the goal offside, but still not that much in it. And let's, credit to Sevilla as well. The Europa League really is, their bread and butter. It's the competition we associate them with the most, and they really showed their pedigree here. It's not a classic Sevilla side by any, stretch of the imagination, but what Jose Luis Mendilibar has done since taking over that team, leading them away from relegation in La Liga, but also leading them now to the semi-finals and onto the brink, really, of a potential 7th Europa League title is really, really impressive. Just a reminder for all of you still tuning in, definitely get your questions across for Mike and Nigel. But don't forget that we've still got Roma and Feyenoord going on. Roma now 3-1 up, so that is good enough to take Jose Mourinho's men through. Feyenoord did look to have pulled off a shock result when Paixão equalized in Rome, but Dybala's goal and then El Shaarawy, cropping up with some key strikes there. So Roma at this moment in time playing in extra time, but still going through 3-1 on the night, 3-2 on aggregate, and then some other results from elsewhere. Sporting drawing with Juve 1-1, which sees Juve go through 2-1 on aggregate, and then you have Union, who got blown out by Leverkusen 4-1, which created a 5-2 victory for the Germans. We will get to the Europa Conference League in a little bit. We'll continue dissecting this Manchester United result at this moment in time. And Mike, I'm going to come back to you. Really, is this the moment you think that Ten Hag is convinced that he has to move on from the likes of De Gea and Maguire? Because for me, this feels like it was a self-inflicted defeat over 2 legs, throwing it away at home with 2 late own goals and then basically gifting Sevilla 2 of their 3 goals here as well. It just feels like, Ten Hag is kind of swimming against the tide sometimes with some of these players.
I think one player for sure has definitely nailed his exit strategy, and that's Harry Maguire. When you're at fault for 2 goals that cost you this tie, the first goal, clearly, Nigel, I agree with you, that is square on Harry Maguire. This is the same Harry Maguire that starts for England, that English journalists and pundits from around the world applaud him when he puts on an England shirt. When he puts on the United shirt, I'm calling match fixing on this guy. That's how pissed off I am at his performances for United. It's a sham. He's playing without any confidence. When he plays for England, he has other players covering for him. He has players who are getting minutes week in and week out. And Harry Maguire, please do not see the field again. Erik Ten Hag, please do not do this to me again, man. I'm young. I'm in my 30s. I don't want to age. I will when I see this guy on my TV screen. For David De Gea, it's a bit of an enigma. This is a goalkeeper that's leading the Premier League in clean sheets. And I think that can be a bit of a tricky thing because there's contract disputes up for a new deal. He's already gotten a new deal in the last couple of years. The fans are behind him at times, especially some of his displays at Old Trafford. But there's worrying signs for me. I would be in the market for another goalkeeper to keep competition because David De Gea, he is not sturdy or as sturdy as he once was a couple seasons back.
Well, I think for me that we'll have to say that Manchester United have had so many players there that have become too comfortable. And you're right. I think it is time to move on. And the problem is that they've got is that it's a difficult situation because financially you need owners who are going to back a manager. And for me, Erik Ten Hag is a good manager. I think that, again, it's very difficult to put this defeat today on the manager. It's the players and the performances that they put in. You can clearly see. We've all got eyes to see. Harry Maguire has been very questionable for a while as Roman keeps on getting involved in this. And I think today's performance just shows it, how difficult a situation. How difficult a situation is at Manchester United.
Oh, absolutely. It is a challenging situation for Ten Hag to be dealing with at this moment in time. The club potentially being sold at this moment in time. And, United were looking potentially at picking up 3 pieces of silverware. 1 is gone. 1 is in play this Sunday in the FA Cup semi-final against Brighton. And then there's still plenty of competition to finish in the top 4 as well. Well, this is the 3rd time Sevilla have beaten United in knockout ties. In the Champions League last 16 in 2017-18, Europa League semi-final in 2019-20. 2nd consecutive season, in fact, that United have tasted defeat at the hands of Spanish opposition in the Europa League as well, because of course they were beaten on penalties by Unai Emery's Villarreal not too long ago.